It's 6 o'clock. I call the meeting of the August 19th Board of the Property Owners Association members to order. Roll call, please.
President Sislo,
Present.
Vice President Drew Rosso,
Present.
Treasurer Blackwood,
Present.
Secretary Damians, present. Director LaFonte,
Present.
Director Lee,
Present.
Director Nutting,
Here.
Director Pino,
Present.
Director Strohmeyer,
Present.
Director Tubbs,
Present.
and Director Becker,
Present.
ex officio.
We have a quorum.
We have
We
quorum.
Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of minutes, please.
Approval of minutes of July 15th, 2024. Minutes were approved by email vote completed on July 31st, 2024.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the meeting agenda?
I'll approve that. Yes.
Thank you, Director Nutting. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, then the agenda is approved. It's time for the President's report. Try to keep it short and sweet. The board has spent the past month getting committees organized. Each committee has developed a routine meeting time and a place. Membership is now finalized. A few changes were made to the committee membership to meet the goal that I had set to have only one person serving on one committee at a time. I felt that the more and varied input we had, the better we can serve the membership. Thanks to everyone who was flexible with the changes and with their efforts. I do need to apologize to anyone that I didn't communicate clearly with. I think I dropped the ball a few times in not letting some people know of the changes, but I appreciate everyone serving. Our general manager, Greg, has been busy interviewing candidates for the vacant food and beverage manager position, and he included me, Bill Blackwood, Trey, Meg, and Ronnie LaFontaine, and Andrea Jones in the opportunity to have some final interviews. Not everyone could attend, unfortunately, but he did obtain input about the 6 final candidates that he had chosen. A new manager, Mr. Carlos Alvarez, has been selected and offered the position, and he will be starting at the end of this month. The fun tournaments, group activities, and other events that at the amenities are well described by others and are included in the Diamond Head POA website. Also be sure to join into the e-blast for emails and learn all that is available. And you can also learn about the activities of the club through Facebook and Instagram, so you can keep informed. I want to remind everyone to be sure to take a few moments to drive by Twin Lakes, one of our wonderful amenities. The pavilion there is available to groups, but you can sit there at any time when they're not in use. There's a lovely walking path there, and you can play disc golf if you'd like. And there's a chance to see people fishing, dogs enjoying being out and away from their leashes, and families sharing the outdoors. It's really a lovely spot there. We're lucky to have these amenities to make our lives better. And that ends my report. Can we have committee reports, please? Mr. Pino, do you have a committee report?
Yes, I do. The Marina Airport Committee met August 1, 2024. We talked about a number of issues with respect to the airport. The airport operator reported that his fuel metering system had some bugs in it, needed someone to look at it, and Mr. Abadi has been asked to have maintenance look into that. There is cracking occurring in the runway, and we need to think about how we address that. And again, Mr. Abadi is going to take the lead on that investigation. The marina talked about a number of issues. According to the harbor master, we are going to get some sonar mapping of Paradise Bayou. I don't know if anybody who boats knows this, but Paradise Bayou, which is the entranceway past all the homes into the marina, pretty shallow, and it's shifting bottoms, and we don't have a good chart of showing where the low spots are, where the depth is. So she's going to get some sonar mapping, which is essentially a chart, and it's free of charge because of someone else doing the work out there. And that will be made available once it's obtained. The dredging by the city that was supposed to be for the Noma Drive project has not happened and may not happen, and that is unfortunate. The driveway for the marina has some potholes, and we're going to look into seeing what needs to be done there. The most significant thing that happened with the meeting was that we discussed, with respect to the airport, a number of members who are not in good standing, who border up to the taxiways and the runways, who, despite not being members in good standing, they continue to use the taxiways, which is an amenity of the POA. So the committee talked about that, and we made the unanimous recommendation that a motion be brought to stop that from happening and to deny them access if they don't pay their dues. And that's going to be a motion that's on the agenda today. And we'll talk more about that motion when it's made. That's the end of my report.
Thank you. Mr. Tubbs?
Yeah, hey, good evening, everybody. The Recreation Committee had its first meeting this month as well. A lot of first-timers on that committee, myself included, and so it was a good opportunity to introduce ourselves to each other and really begin to understand what the full scope of the committee is, and had some early thoughts, some early ideas that were kicked around. One motion that we'll bring to you today kind of represents, what we've tried to envision the group as being, is a creative force for finding funding instead of just coming with requests to spend funding, every month. And so we'll talk a little bit about what we're thinking in that regards. But we're also talking about two amenities usage and taking note that summers continue to be very hot later into the fall this year, and we're looking at the potential of what it would take to keep the main country club pool open longer than we have done in the past. Look back at weather records from last year, we were well over 85 degrees well into October. And so with that said, we think that there's some opportunity there for the community to get more usage out of those amenities. And so that's something that we're also looking at. A lot of diverse interests within the committee, which was kind of by design. A lot of passions in the tennis and especially pickleball and potentially growing that. So I think the group's going to be really, really good in terms of thinking outside the box and bringing new ideas. There was the desire across the whole of the committee to make sure that people in Diamond Head know who we are and know that they can come to us with any ideas or suggestions that they have. So I'm looking forward to getting to know the folks better. And like I said, hopefully being a factory of ideas for this board to consider. So,
Thank you. Mr. Strohmeyer?
The admin committee met last Monday, and I'd like to thank Bill and Bob for chairing that meeting. I was not able to make it. We had also invited Miles Sharp, our outside counsel, to the meeting to bring us up to date where the lawsuit stands. So taking that one first, the latest hearing, I guess, was in May, and we still do not have a ruling from this individual. And with that in mind, Miles was asked by the committee to go ahead and prepare a memo on the pros and cons of a potential appeal, assuming one day we'll get a ruling. From there, we went into a discussion with the Elliott Homes, and in particular, all of those buyers before the covenant were put into place, which I guess was this past April or May. And we're just 25 to 40 or so, 45 homeowners that fall under this pre-covenant period. So we're, through Mr. Abity in particular, we're working to get these people on board and and sign the necessary paperwork to make them POA, permanent POA members. There's new property development going on along the Pine and the Cardinal, so we discussed that as well. And Mr. Avity is working with the developers on that, and so hopefully that will eventually work itself out to our favor. As Bob had mentioned, we talked a little, or in the admin committee, we talked about the airport situation with the property owners who haven't paid, and that will be taken up in executive session. So aside from that, we talked, the last thing we talked about was there's been a delay in filing suits, and I'm not very clear on where fault lies, if any, on that, but there was discussion on perhaps moving this from justice court to the county court, and so that's in the hopper right now. Other than that, if you refer to the minutes that we sent out last Wednesday, and we brought up to speed.
Okay, thank you very much. Director Nutting?
I'll defer to the committee chairs.
Thank you. Director LaFontaine?
Yes, the House Committee met on Thursday, August 1st, and we welcomed the new and introduced the new committee members. We also discussed the toast inventory control system for food, dry goods, and spices, and it will require some data input and implementation planning. It will also include the Latitude 30 and Oak Room menus. Special event menus will be implemented as part of the event planning process. Food sales trends have increased over the last 2 years, and from January through this month, August, they are still trending in an upward fashion. The committee is also reviewing ideas for a family night menu and possible fall concerts and events on the event lawn and patio. Committee is also looking into the development of perhaps a welcome package for new property owners that can be presented to them at closings when they close on their property. So they have the information as far as the amenities and what's available here in Diamond Head. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Secretary Damian, do you have any report?
Nothing to report.
Mr. Giarrusso?
So the Safety and Facilities Committee met on July 29th. We discussed a couple of things at the club, new slip coefficient floor in the kitchen, some HVAC issues, which I think has a lot to do with the heat, but we have a couple of remedies, and also the community center, the facade, and a couple of major issues that are going on there. Everything was kind of presented to everyone. We're having our next meeting, which is September 3rd. We're going to have it at the community center so we can go over some issues and discuss all of that in the further detail to see if we can help fix some of those. That's about it.
Thank you. Mr. Blackwell?
I have nothing to report.
Mr. Lee?
Yeah, we had the Golf and Grounds Committee meeting back in July 17th. We discussed this at the last meeting. We have nothing really to report. The next meeting will be September 4th.
Okay, thank you very much. And how about Mr. Becker? Any?
I defer.
Okay, thank you all. It's time for the general manager's report, please.
Good evening, everyone. In your information packets, there's a financial report for the month of July, as well as year-to-date. Month end, July 31, 2024, shows a net income of $21,000 positive compared to a budgeted amount of negative 26. So for the month, a budget variance of 48,000 to the good. And year to date, we're $305,000 net income compared to a budget amount of 168. So there again, a positive variance, 136,766. So it was good despite the frequent rainfall that we had during the month of July. And it's good to see the support from everyone. The next page in your information packet gives some additional financial information that would be of interest to you. Gives the bank account balances, and it also discloses that funds from a Cadence bank account we plan to transfer to another account in the form of a certificate of deposit, and that is currently earning an interest of 5%. So the timing of that transfer is, I think, in the next week or so. POA dues revenue received, you can see July 2024 is roughly 30,000 greater than July of 2023. And we're happy to see that, certainly. Financial audit for year 2021 and 2022 has now been completed. The next sheet in your packet is really a committee schedule that indicates which committees are meeting what days and what days of the month. Probably helpful to me as much as anyone else. The next page is our collections report. It shows July through August, 17,379. Year to date total 128,407. We have a developer in the form of Prominence Homes who plans to submit payment of $5,372 to take care of their amount owed to us. I think that's in the works, and they should be paying that anytime soon. Real estate sales, 23,000. So for the year to date, 156,778. The next page is the amenity use statistics and revenue report. Again, golf shows a favorable month despite the heavy rainfalls. Good activity at the swimming pools. Tennis had one of its more active months. Marina's doing well, covering expenses. And the RV storage is taking care of those who want to lease space and protect their investments. Golf Academy had a busy month. Hoppy Smith has been awarded a teacher that receives the Patriot Award. He's been recognized by the PGA Gulf State section. So we're happy and proud of Hoppy. The next page in your information packet is a marketing summary. Nancy reports that we've reached over 37,900 people in the last 30 days on Facebook. Something called an engagement rate. Social media marketing experts agree that a good engagement rate is 1 to 5%, whereas the Diamond Head engagement rate was 11 to 15%. I need to find out what the engagement rate is. On the operations budget timeline, Darian and I did meet this past week with all the department managers. Had very good, productive first sessions. They will be responsible, they being the department managers, will be responsible to submit their first run at budgets this week. And we're planning to contact Mr. Blackwood in hopes for a meeting next Wednesday at a time convenient for him to have our first stab at reviewing the budgets proposed at that time. We have several follow-up meetings before we submit to the board October 17th for official approval. That concludes my report for the open forum. There's some information that we'll go over in later.
Thank you very much. Do we have POA member wanting to comment on agenda items?
We have 3 that have signed up. First is Michael Clark.
Mr. Clark? Please try to keep your remarks to about 3 minutes, okay?
I'm Mike Clark, 2311 Coelho, out on Taxiway Bravo, and this is about the proposal to block taxiway access. And I'm attacking the proposal, not the people, Mr. Pino. And the first question is, are there similar blocking proposals at the golf course and the marina? And if they're not, then this might be construed by people as another attempt to treat the airport as a special class of amenity, and that's failed in the past. As far as users, it's going to be difficult to determine who uses it. People who live out there, not everybody uses it. Here's some examples of some who don't, and blocking them isn't going to make any sense. The car repair business, for example, they don't use it. The 3 vacant houses at the end of Coelho, nobody even lives there. So if you waste your effort blocking those, they're never even going to see them. People haven't lived there for years. As for, it says it's no cost to implement. If you got free labor, you mentioned the cracks in the runway, they might better be engaged, removing the grass and fixing the cracks and fixing the potholes and that sort of thing, rather than put up barriers. Maybe improvements will entice participation. The barriers might create a hazard. You know, Charlie is pretty narrow out there, and somebody in this room knows how much you spent to remove all the trees from Charlie because of the hazard, and now you're going to install hazards out there? That seems a little silly. And of course, it's normally about golf courses in this room, but we always hear attractive amenities attract home buyers, and well-kept amenities boost home values. So how attractive are these going to be, and how much will they boost my home value? And when Jerry Gillen was on the committee, he always asked if we maintain our backyards so that people who taxi in, fly in visitors might potentially buy properties here. And I think if they taxi in and see a bunch of barricades or whatever these are going to be, they're not described in the proposal. But that might be a negative impression when they first move in here, or first fly in here. So anyway, that's the 6 things I'm talking about. First, I don't know how you determine users. Once you determine users, you probably should determine wingspans to see where these barriers are going to go. I wouldn't barricade the ones that nobody lives at. That's just wasted effort. And I think that's it. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Next, Mary Ann Trail is the next.
My name is Mary Ann Trail, and I'm the owner of Taxiway Property. Though the proposed solution the POA has to collect delinquent dues does not specifically apply to me, the interest I have here has to do with one of the main reasons I moved here, which is to enjoy my life with my family within an aviation community and to enjoy flying our airplane. If any barricade is placed along the taxiway/apron of any property, it poses a safety hazard, as Mike said, to any aircraft entering or exiting their properties. Wingspan and style, low wing versus high wing, needs to be taken into consideration as to the type and placement of proposed barricade. As Mike stated, the taxiway property owners have been described as users and non-users. I will go on to further describe users as taxiway property owners who have active aircraft where they are either actively flying, building, or conducting mechanical work. Your solution is a barricade at the taxiway apron area. Non-users are described as taxiway property owners who have non-airworthy aircraft being stored. Your solution is a barricade at the taxiway apron area. Who have no aircraft at all, yet utilize their taxiway apron by having guests who visit traveling by plane, whether tying down at the owner's apron or tying down at 66Y, and using those amenities there. Your solution is a barricade at the taxiway apron area. And then those non-users who have vacant property that is maintained or unkept, your solution is a barricade at the taxiway apron area, which here would have no effect. It is my opinion that by proposing barricaded taxiway access, the POA is referring to a specific delinquent active user or users. If the POA proceeds with that type of barricade solution, what benefit is it to the POA in attempt to collect delinquent dues from non-users, should they become delinquent from this point forward? There is no consistency in the POA's solution for taxiway property owners. If 1 or 2 property owners are delinquent who are active users, It is my opinion that should be addressed between the POA and that property owner instead of this solution being proposed as a blanket applying to all taxiway property owners. In close, we recognize it as a positive for the POA to collect dues from Diamond Head property owners, as the dues help to maintain our amenities, including our airport. However, I consider it only as a positive if the effort or efforts to collect those delinquent dues encompass both groups I have identified, users and non-users. Otherwise, what benefit does blocking taxiway access have if the property owner has been identified as a non-user, where blocking makes no sense? I would also like the POA to know that the people in our neighborhood promote the sale of property in and around our south side, and I would hate to see something, as Mike explained, like a barricade being observed by a potential buyer, raising questions about the situations surrounding that and deterring them from considering buying here. I have a few specific questions I would like to email the POA, since I couldn't print out, that I sincerely request to be answered however you answer in written form or other before or at the next scheduled POA meeting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
The final person who signed up is Paulette Snyder.
Hi, I'm Paulette Snyder Gilbert. I think I know most everybody up here. I live at 23103 Coelho Way, and I'm really going to go back over about what they said, but I've got a little bit to add. We have a total of 18 active airplanes right now. 18. That is our neighbors. That's not guests. That is active airplanes. Out of those 18, I have personally asked them who's paying their dues. Out of those 18 airplanes, I only know one. I only know one. Out of the vacant houses at the end of Coelho, they have no airplanes. They're not here. One of those houses, I'm working very diligently to get us a pilot in here. He is, he's hoping to have the access to the taxiway. If we block that house, which I know is not paying its POA dues, if we block that house, he's not going to buy it. So how do we resolve this issue other than this proposed blockage? Is this a fence? And fences are about 80 feet of fence. If you go with wood, it's about $2,000. Most lots are 80 feet wide. Or if you go with the higher quality fence, it's $4,000. I mean, that's a lot of money. So we can better use our money. And I have 2 houses and several lots here in Diamond Head, and I pay POA dues on every one of them. I like to see my POA dollars go a little bit further and, you know, promote the airport instead of shutting it down, because that's what it's doing. When you start adding to the blight by adding fencing, it's gonna deter people. Our worst blight down there is an active car repair shop that we can't get anyone to do anything about. They go down. They are using the taxiway, Taxiway Charlie, to go dump their chemicals on the other side of the airport, the runway. Can't get anything done about that. EPA needs to be there. But that's not what we're here for. We're here because we have several airplanes. We've got beautiful properties down there. Some of them aren't so pretty right now, but they're working on it. We're working on that. How can we help you show them that it's worth the time to pay the dues? Because that's what I do. I market Diamond Head, and I bring us a lot of clients who say, what is this money for? I point out how wonderful we are, and yes, some people believe it's voluntary, some people believe it's mandatory. I don't let them lead on that it's either or. I say it's worth the money. Look at this little bitty money you're spending and look at all this you get. How can I do that when I show them a barricade? Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay, time for the regular agenda. We have motion 2414. The motion to notify members not in good standing who use the POA taxiways and runways that their access will be blocked sorry about that, as of September 1st, unless they pay all past membership dues. Who would like to make that motion?
I would like to make that motion on behalf of the Marina Airport Committee.
Do I have a second?
I will second that.
And would you like to start the discussion, Mr. Pino?
I would. This motion, as I said in the committee report, was developed by the Marina Airport Committee, and we did that after a discussion, and it was by unanimous agreement. There are 8 properties contiguous to the airport taxiways, and the airport taxiways and the runway itself are a POA amenity. There's no question about that. Those 8 properties are not paying dues. The members who own those properties are not members in good standing. Our POA bylaws at section 2.5 states expressly that members not in good standing are suspended from using amenities. This is not a question of should we keep people who are not paying their dues from using our amenities. The question is, are we going to enforce the POA bylaws that say we must? These people were warned in the letter in April of this year that this action would be taken, that unless they paid their dues, they would be blocked from using the taxiways and the runways. That group of people took no action. They're still delinquent. They're more delinquent now than when they were when that letter was written. They were asked to come in and discuss it. They did not do so. If this motion is granted, what I would propose is that another letter be sent to these 8 properties telling them how much they individually owe with principal, interest, and anything else that we customarily charge on unpaid dues, and that they have to pay this amount by September 1. If they don't pay by September 1, the proposal is that their access to the taxiways be blocked. And the cost of blocking the taxiway will be assessed to those properties because it's being necessitated by their failure to pay dues. The question was asked, why are you doing this for only the airport? Well, frankly, the airport is a unique situation where we are able to do it. Members who are not in good standing have no right to use the golf cart paths. They do. We know they do. But it's nearly impossible to stop them from doing it. Someday those golf cart paths are going to have to be repaved, and it's the members in good standing who are going to pay to repave them, not the people who are not in good standing who are using them improperly when the bylaws say they can't. The bylaws require this action. Now, I haven't discussed this with maintenance or with Mr. Abity in any more detail, but the airport operator has told us that a simple blockage, maybe a foot off the ground, will stop airplane tires from crossing into the taxiway. We're not talking about an unsightly fence. We're not talking about expensive fencing. We're talking about some small amount of blockage that will stop a plane. Like I say, the bylaws require this action. Fairness to paying members requires this action. Our fiduciary duties as directors and officers of this company, this corporation, requires this action. We're required to enforce and abide by our bylaws. So I ask for this motion to be granted. I ask for this motion to be granted unanimously.
Does anyone else have comments?
Yeah, I do. I think this is short-sighted and ill-conceived. There's very few people on the Airport and Marina Committee that are actually residents of that area, and I think before we do this, and I believe in live and let live, and rules are guidelines, not hard and fast things. And I think before we do this, we should have a meeting with these people that live in the airport and talk with them and come up with a solution that's not so offensive to the POA people that live there that are in good standing. So I think we're going a little fast and hard on this thing, and I would recommend that we table it and have a meeting with the people that live on the south side and talk to them about solutions that we could get to get our money. And I agree it's our fiduciary responsibility to get the money, but if we're being offensive to the people that are paying their dues by collecting from people that are not paying their dues. So I would suggest we table this and have a meeting with the people that live down there. That's my thoughts.
I have some comments.
Please.
As I recall, last year we had a meeting with the people down there. discuss this issue. We also had a meeting November 18th or something like that with the board members and discussed this, and we discussed about blocking it. At that point in time, I believe Greg came up and said, well, let's write them a letter first and see what we can get. Okay, well, that letter was written in April. Now we're in August, and no, they haven't even called us back. I don't know how else we go about doing anything other than to do something serious. Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes, sir.
Well, I'm not sure if there's a solution, but the golfing members that don't pay, we just keep harassing them through the courts and all that, and eventually get a trickle of money. So maybe the similar philosophy will be keep hounding them till we get it. And eventually some will pay and some won't. And I don't know if that's the solution, but I don't think we're being fair to the people that are POA members in good standing over there at the airport by putting this rule in.
One more comment from me. I think we should with no question, we should work with the people out there who are using the facilities out there who are members in good standing and make sure that what we do doesn't affect them inadvertently. I don't think it will, but I don't know. The airport operator says it won't. But this isn't, I don't think, a decision, a question, should we or should we not? The POA bylaws says what they say. It's our duty as fiduciaries to enforce those bylaws. Just because this provision doesn't solve the entire problem doesn't mean we don't use it to solve some of the problem. And clearly some of the problem is people are using our taxiway, maybe even if it's only 2 of those 8 who are active users. They're flying their plane every day, not paying, laughing at us because we're a paper tiger and we don't do what we say we're going to do, and we don't take action when the bylaws say we're going to take it. I think it's time to let the membership know that we are good guardians of their money, we are good guardians of the bylaws, and that we're going to work as best we can to make sure those who are supposed to pay, pay. That's the simple answer here. If you're supposed to pay, pay.
I have one final comment. As Bob pointed out, there's a lot of unknowns with this thing. Let's get the unknowns solved, discuss it with the people that live there before we go ahead and do this. I'm not saying that this isn't the solution, and it may well be the solution, but there's unknowns about what it's going to look like, how much it's going to cost, how much it's going to deter future development there. So let's get the unknowns solved before we put this thing to bed.
I would like to make one comment, and that is, could we think carefully about how this motion is worded? And it talks about notifying members that their access will be blocked. It does not say how. It does not say anything more that we will notify them by September 1st. Can we go forward with this motion knowing that there's a lot more work to be done on the details of it, the technique, so that it doesn't create obstructions, dangers, problems, eyesores, on the technique of deciding who and how? We don't want to deter someone from purchasing there. So, I mean, we have a lot of reasons to keep that area as nice looking and as positive as we can, but we have a valid point that we have to follow some rules and have a fiduciary responsibility. If we strongly take this wording that they'll be notified, doesn't mean action will be actively taken beyond that notification. That would be one thing for us to be considering as we decide how we want to vote. We could also amend this to change the date on it. Does anybody want to make a change at all?
I don't care if you make a simple change or not. I think the motion, as in the agenda, and as modified, if at all, by the discussion and the motion as it was presented, makes it clear that we are going to block as of September 1, or any time after. I mean, no earlier than September 1. We'll block as of September 1 unless they pay, and we're going to give them one final notification and chance to make it right. I don't think there's any problem with this motion the way it's drafted to act on it tonight. As it says, it's blocked no earlier than September 1. Maybe it'll be blocked on September 15. I don't know. If Greg and the maintenance people need to have more time to assess exactly how they want to do it and get it done, fine. But I don't think we can kick the can down the road anymore.
Are there any further comments?
I have a question. Bob, were they notified that the cost would be charged to their property for the blocking?
I have the letter from April. I don't recall if it says that or not, but the next letter that says this is actually going to happen now will say that.
It needs to.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, then we need to call a vote.
Do have a
Stu, I'm sorry.
question. Maintenance is gonna be doing this, not the sheriff's office? Blocking it?
No, I anticipate our own people will be doing this. The sheriff won't be involved. It's a civil matter, not a criminal matter.
Every time we bring up something, there's another unknown that we don't know before we go ahead with this. We should clean this up a little bit before we present something.
I'm sorry, is there something more we need to change on here?
Just the things that Ronnie brought up and that Stuart brought up, those issues, and then Bob brought up that they don't know what the barricades will look like or what they will cost. Those along the other things that we've heard during this discussion that are out there, but we don't know what they are. So we're passing a bylaw without really having it cleaned up or specific.
Any other points? Yes, sir.
We have a motion outstanding, and I would like to make a sub-motion to that motion since we haven't voted,
Okay.
and that's to table this for 1 month. We tried with these 8 people one time, and then we bring this back on the agenda for September.
Does anyone second that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, so Stuart makes the sub-motion. Stu does, and then Stuart seconds.
So I'm confused. What do we vote on first? Because it sounds like there's two motions.
Well, it's a sub-motion, so
Okay.
I think we have to vote on the sub-motion first before we go back to the primary motion. And the sub-motion is to table
To table,
motion 2024-14 for 1 month while further
we try, I don't know.
further communication is completed. Shall we say that? Is that how you want it worded?
Say it again?
We're going to postpone the motion for 1 month while further communication is completed, so we have the details.
With those
Members
not
not
in
in
good
good standing.
yeah. I
We're
wouldn't
going to,
call them.
we're going to clarify our communication with them and pick that date.
So the sub-motion is to table the motion to block access, which carries with it a notification that we will block access, to table that so that we can provide notice to the property owners of what?
No, not to provide, to make one last ditch effort and ask these generous people to get involved with this, to pull whoever these eight people are together, and we sit down and see if we could work it out within this month, and if not, we do this in September.
All right, I understand your motion. I understand your sub-motion.
Does everyone understand the sub-motion? Because otherwise.
Is there a date for action to take place at the sub-motion? Are we gonna set a date?
No.
So
Well,
we're just kicking the can.
Date for
no,
what?
we would make,
Action.
instead of
Are
September.
we gonna have an action at the sub-motion, or are we gonna have a date
Yes.
for doing something?
Instead of September 1, which is what the motion states now, it would be October 1. It would be reintroduced in the September meeting to take effect October 1st.
So you're suggesting it's not self-executing on October 1, we have to come back and approve it between now and then?
In the September meeting, yes. But my Mike, where I'm coming from with this is after listening to the speakers, then if you would get involved with us and try to get these people to come to the table, and let's see if we can work it out.
Would it be possible to have them involved post, say this passes, to show us what kind of barricade would be minimal? And so it's possible to achieve both, in my opinion, to have them involved, because I agree with everything you gentlemen are saying, but I also don't want to kick the can that started getting kicked a year ago, in my opinion. I would think even if this got passed, the sub-motion didn't, and the motion got passed, I would want the citizens' opinions that pay their dues and have to stare at this on the taxiway to have some sort of involvement, whether it be just on a committee level or a board level. I think that whichever direction we go in, it would be intricate to have you guys, like you're here tonight, expressing your concerns.
Well, I think you're correct that they can both be accomplished by having a September 1 date, which again does not necessarily mean that on September 1 that's going to be blocked. But we will not block before September 1, and that gives approximately 2 weeks as of today to have a meeting and try to work things out, or maybe even longer than that. And if not, we have a action item in place that we can execute on.
Gary?
I've got a question for Andrea. Have we not contacted these people multiple times? Have we not offered them the opportunity to come speak to us about this? Have we not notified them the action was going to be taken and nobody's done anything?
With the exception of one individual, yes, that's correct. But there was one letter sent back in April, and I believe that Mr. Abity has made some attempts to contact people via phone or independent correspondence. But it is correct that with the exception of one individual, that no one responded to our offer of compromise.
Thank you.
So the expression we've been using is kicking the can down the road. Well, we're not really kicking the can down the road. Do we want to pass something just for the sake of passing it, so we could say we didn't kick the can down the road? Or do we want to make a thoughtful, all-inclusive bylaw that penalizes the bad and rewards the good? So it's not kicking the can down the road.
We can't pass a bylaw at this meeting. We're just trying to enforce the bylaws already in effect.
Yeah, I meant a motion, not a bylaw. I stand corrected.
So we're in the midst of discussing a sub-motion that says we table the original motion in order to have adequate time to complete the work we want done, and we would then bring the motion back at the September meeting.
I suggest if people feel strongly about September 1 is too quickly, let's amend the original motion to make that October 1. But let's do the business tonight.
Okay, how do we go about doing that? So then we would need to, we need to vote on the sub-motion. And if we do not pass the sub-motion, we then have the opportunity to revise the original motion.
I make a sub-motion. I think it should be decided first. The people who are concerned about September 1 are not going to want to discard that sub-motion unless they have a new date. Let's give them a new date, October 1. So the sub-motion is to amend the original motion. Everything that stays the same, but we do not execute it before October 1.
My discussion to the sub-motion is this motion, not bylaw, this motion needs to be cleaned up and have more specifics in it before we can vote on it. So to vote on the sub-motion to make it October the 1st, the motion still isn't in a good enough form for us to vote yes for.
Okay.
I'm done making sub-motions.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think we need to make some decisions here.
I think so too.
And we really do have a sub-motion, which was most recently put forward. We gotta vote on that.
You need a second.
And we need a second to the sub-motion. Is anybody gonna second it?
This is for the October.
For changing the date to October 1st in the original motion. Anybody want to second that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Becker seconds that. We've had plenty of discussion. All in favor of the sub motion, which says.
I'm completely confused, because are we gonna vote on all three of these? Because if
Well,
we're voting on
legitimately on Robert's rules, I believe we have to go through that formality.
So all the
I'm
sub.
sorry.
All the sub motion will do is change September 1st,
It'll change
October
the
1st.
first one, and then
Okay.
we will have, we'll have something passed, and we hope, we'll see how we do with the sub and the real.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but I think that's how you have to do it with Robert's rules.
I think you're right.
Okay, so all those in favor of the sub motion, which changes the date, that's a quick statement. I want me to fully restate the sub motion. Or are you good with what the sub motion is? I just need you to be comfortable. Anybody uncomfortable with the sub motion? All those in favor of basically changing the date on the motion to October 1st, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 10. All those opposed? 1. So I have 1 opposed. 10, 4. The motion, sub motion carries. The sub motion was to table motion 2414. Do I have a second for that one?
I was.
Okay, and Stuart seconded. All those in favor of tabling, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. Okay, all those opposed to tabling? 1, 2, 3, 7. Okay, so that motion is defeated because all opposed were more. Now, motion 2414. To notify members not in good standing who use the taxiways and runways and that their access be blocked as of September 1st unless they pay all past due membership dues. All those in favor of that motion? What,
Wait,
Now it's October.
wait, now it's October 1st.
even though that the original motion said?
No, it
Because
says
that was a
September.
sub-motion that we did. The sub-motion revised the original motion.
I think you're correct, but I think that the original motion now would be inconsistent with the motion we just passed, the sub motion. I think maybe the proper course of action is to now withdraw the original motion.
Okay, is there someone who will withdraw that motion?
I will motion to withdraw.
Mr. Pino withdraws motion 2024-14. I don't think we need a second for that withdrawal. He was the originator. Okay, so we have a date, a motion, and a time. Do we feel like we completed this properly? Okay. Motion 2415, a motion to purchase a 1-year subscription to the grant portal for use by the Recreation Committee. Who would like to make that motion?
I would like to make that motion.
And who will second that?
I will, being on the committee.
Mr. Stewart will second it. Would you like to speak to that motion, please?
Yes, what this is, it's a one-time investment on an annual subscription to a service that goes out and looks at federal and the state grant opportunities through a variety of channels, right? You can find each of these without this subscription, but it kind of does a lot of the work for you, a lot of the research. And we had spent a little bit of time perusing opportunities that were currently out there. And to give you a kind of a flavor of what most of these are, they're lower dollar amounts. A lot of them are as low as $1,000, but some go up to $10,000 to $25,000. And they are grants that are focused towards nonprofits and are available to Mississippi nonprofits. And they touch a number of areas in the sports and recreation world, and so you could see this coming into play a number of ways. One potentially being a way to pay for costs for ongoing programs that we already have that we're paying with our membership fees. But there's also opportunities for us to do some new things without adding additional cost. I think that there's good opportunities for scholarships for youth. I think there's good opportunities for clinics in a number of areas. A lot of these are specific to tennis, to golf, to swimming. There's specific swimming grants that are available. And so the point of the motion here is to navigate this the right way. The Recreation Committee, I think, is prepared to start putting together proposals. But again, we're very new, and we want to make sure that we go through the POA offices and follow whatever processes make sense for us to do that in the official way. So it's kind of small dollar, but it's also not just the purchase itself, but more or less looking for the board's support for us to go out and hunt grant opportunities for the POA.
Thank you. Anybody else have comments?
Just by way of the motion, Mike, you didn't put the dollar amount in, but I understand it's $200.
Yeah, that's right, $199 actually.
And this would also be, we've talked about putting a playground in front of the patio area towards the driving range for the kids to play in a more organized fashion, and that would be money that we could possibly find grants for. So I think this is a wonderful, well-thought-out motion, and we should pass it.
Any other comments? Yes, Mr. Becker.
We normally don't consider expenditures of $200 at the board level. The president's authority is up to $5,000. So Nancy, unless you're against this, I recommend that we just ask you whether you will approve the expenditure and bypass the board action.
Okay, so we would withdraw the motion and then move forward with
If
the
you
grant.
approve the expenditure.
And I would approve that expenditure, so we can ask you to.
Awesome, thank you. I'll figure this out, but it was more than just the 200. I was really looking to see, if there was support behind the general idea. So I'm very appreciative. Thank you.
Okay, and we can record that you withdrew the motion?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Tubbs. Thank you very much. Do we have any members wanting to speak on non-agenda items?
No one has signed up.
Okay, our next meeting is September 16th, 6 p.m. here in City Council chambers. We are going to adjourn briefly to an executive session. May I have